Happy New Year, everyone. The numbers are in for Palmetto Trace for 2020. I'm Craig Duran with the Duran Group over at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Going to give you a little comprehensive update of what happened in 2020. Do this in three parts. First of all, we'll look at the overall market in a comparable price range to see some important statistics I want you to know to see just how hot this real estate market is. You've probably heard that the market's very active. Show you some numbers so you can get some sense of that. And then look at Palmetto Trace specifically. We'll look at the detached single family section and the townhouse section in separate, kind of look at that in separate parts. Those are two very different markets. And then we'll finish off by looking ahead to what we sort of expect in 2021. Anyone who's thinking of selling, this will be an important part for you. We're going to talk a little bit about some specific pricing strategies and timing strategies to help you maximize and get the most out of the sale in 2021. So we'll get right to it. First of all, last year in the overall market, these are all the homes in Panama City Beach priced between $300,000 and $550,000. It's a little bit of an extended range for Palmetto Trace, but that'll give us a good idea of what's going on in the detached single family market. First of all, there were 10% more new listings that came on the market last year in this price range, meaning we added a fair amount of supply. But look at how much, and at first, when you first see that statistic, you might be worried about the market softening or slowing down when we have too much supply, not enough buyers. But take a look at what happened here. The number of homes that went under contract were up 23%. And ultimately, the number that sold were up 25%. And if you think about that, real estate is often a very slow-moving thing, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a smaller number, 2, 3, 4% difference in some of those numbers. 25% more sales just in this price range is a very, very dramatic, big move for the market. When you look at that in terms of sold volume, the actual dollars, that number is higher, 27% higher. We sold almost $197 million worth of homes in this price point in 2019. Last year, we sold $250 million. The average sales price only went up 1% in this price range. Now, think about that for a minute. That's just the average. So that means homes in excellent condition, homes in very, not so great condition, different size properties, different locations. Certainly there are some parts of the beach that values don't hold as well as they do in Palmetto Trace. So again, the average across the market was only a 1% increase in the average sales price. But let's look at, we're going to get to Palmetto Trace specifically in a minute. Remember, for those of you who haven't seen this, this is one of my favorite charts to look at and try to understand the market. The red line, again, this is for the overall market. We're getting to Palmetto Trace specifically next. The red line represents the number of homes that are on the market for sale at any given time, in any month. So obviously, since early 2019, we've had more and more and more homes for sale in our market, and we're at the highest point as of December. We're at the highest point we've seen in 2 years of things available for sale. And again, like I talked about just a minute ago, that could be on its face, that could be a concerning number, thinking, oh, wait, there are too many things for sale and not enough people buying. But this next metric, this months of inventory number, you guys know I'm a big fan of that. It's very important to understand months of inventory to see what's happening with the overall market. Theoretically, and historically, 5 or 6 months of inventory represented a neutral market in real estate. The idea is that the entire process from putting a home up for sale, getting marketing going, showing the property, negotiating offers, getting to contract, and then closing that contract, that entire process would normally take about 5 or 6 months. If things are happening faster, if instead of having 5 or 6 months of inventory, you have 4 months of inventory or 3 months of inventory, think about that. Like it sounds, that whole process is happening faster. So obviously properties are going under contract sooner, closings are happening faster. Generally, that's more demand, right? People are the market's hot, there are probably less homes for sale, more people interested to buy. So anytime you get under 5 months of inventory, it starts to signal seller market territory. And of course, the closer you get to zero, you're starting to get into ultra hot range. So let's look at the overall market again. Since January 2020, we were starting the year below 3 months of inventory, which is very, very strong, very much a seller's market. We got here to April and slowed down quite a bit to 5 months of inventory directly as a direct result of March when the pandemic broke out. And even though we slowed down dramatically, we still only slowed down to a neutral market or a normal market, meaning that things at their worst in 2021 or 2020 were pretty normal for real estate. And then look what happened since then. It really picked up quite a bit. The very next month, we got to 3.6 months. For a couple months, we were under 2 months of inventory. That's extremely hot. We've slowed down a little bit. If you follow this, 1.8 months of inventory to 2.3, 2.6, 2.8, up to now finishing at 3.28. So it's going to be an important trend to watch in this price range. The market is slowing or cooling off a little bit, but it's cooling off from extremely, extremely hot. So technically, we're still very much in a seller market. We need to watch that. If over the next few months we go to 4 months, 5 months, 6 and beyond, that's where you start to see the market slow down. That's where you would start to see prices be affected. At the moment, things are holding pretty steady. We're in a seller market territory. We'll have to keep an eye on that month to month. Specifically in Palmetto Trace, obviously we have fewer data points, so to speak, since there are fewer properties than when comparing the overall market. So this part of the chart jumps around quite a bit, but let's focus again on that months of inventory number. If we look at the beginning of the year, starting out strong, about the same as the rest of the market. At worst, Palmetto Trace didn't even get as soft as the rest of the market. It's pretty much stayed seller market territory. In fact, extremely hot. Look at this, 1 month of inventory, less than a month of inventory, 3 out of the last 6 months. So extremely, extremely good market. The Palmetto Trace market looks like it's outperforming the rest of the market, which is going to be important when we start talking about pricing. What did I pull here? Oh, sorry, that was the detached single family. Let me show you that one more time. This is just for the detached single family homes in Palmetto Trace. So again, extremely hot. Now look at just specifically the townhomes. If possible, even hotter. We never have been above 2 months of inventory in the last 2 years, meaning that market is just as hot as it gets, especially in the townhouse section. We're going to talk about pricing in just a minute. So when we look at the overall sales, the way I've got this organized now, this is Palmetto Trace back to just the homes. I've got this organized by sold date. And so we'll just go chronologically throughout the year. There were 31 sales last year. If you want a copy of this specific link, I can send you a link pretty easily, and you can take your time and look at some of the sales and click on the photos and the description, that kind of thing. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. We had actually the highest sale of the year was early in the year, back on Kensington Circle, a $400,000 sale. Now, one note, as we go through this, remember we've got all kinds of different floor plans, sizes of homes here. I haven't broken it down by square footage or anything like that. A couple of them have pools, different builders, of course, different ages, all those things matter. So what I'm looking at is really just trying to pick up seeing if we see some kind of trend in appreciation or up. I've been looking through this, and I haven't seen a higher sale than that 400,000. I noticed, we have some sales at 295. If we're thinking about the bottom end, 295 is in June. I think one thing that's interesting is I don't see another 295 sale. We did have one at 289. Other than that 289 sale, it looks like the floor moved up a little bit to about 310. 310 here, some 325s, a 315. So other than that 289, it looks like we've pretty well moved into at least the 300s for probably the smallest properties in Palmetto Trace. We haven't had anything break out over 400,000. We even haven't had yes, we have 425. I missed that earlier. So in one regard, if we had a $400,000 sale earlier in the year on Kensington, which was one of the newer builders, and back on Middleburg, we had a sale in October at 425. There's a touch of appreciation there. And you're starting to see, if you look at this, you do see a few higher numbers later in the year, 399 here with one with a pool. Again, that seems like the bottom end has moved up a little bit. When we look at the townhomes section, again, you have 2 and 3 bedrooms over there. $215,000 sale on one of the 2 bedrooms, 238 early in the year. We're finishing up at 245, 240 for some of the larger ones. The bottom, the 2 bedrooms have moved up from 212, 215, 230. But most interestingly, even recently, I don't know if you saw it, one of these sold for is under contract. The asking price was $259. And we're going to talk a little bit more about pricing in a minute. A little bit, obviously, maybe not as much of appreciation there on its face, but we're going to talk about that again in pricing in just a minute. So in terms of where we're going, we look like we're still a very, very healthy market in Palmetto Trace. Some appreciation like the rest of the market. Remember, what you're looking at here is a chart from a company called Showing Time. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started tracking this to see, I knew that we would have fewer showings, obviously. People in March were obviously going to not get out and look at real estate as much. I wanted to start to follow this to see when we might bottom out and when things might pick up again. And we saw that by end of May, we were showing as much real estate as we were in 2020 as we were the year before. In fact, we showed more real estate. If you really look closely at this orange line to the blue line, we showed a lot more real estate in 2020 than we did in 2019, more contracts. One thing to note, if you're thinking about selling this year and you're thinking about timing, put some of this stuff together. Remember, we just showed you we're still in a very good market, a very, very hot market. Obviously, if you look at this in terms of comparing things to the baseline, they're resetting the baseline for us right now. But the most important thing here is look at the amount of showings that are happening here compared to that 0% baseline versus right in here. We're showing more real estate here early in the year. One note on this chart, this is for the entire state of Florida. This includes detached single family and condominiums. South Florida, North Florida, whose seasons are pretty different. I would contend we actually have another really little run here in our market. But the most important thing, if you're thinking about taking advantage of the spring market, 2 things. First of all, on timing. There's no need to wait till March, April, May. Sometimes the instinct is that, especially with maybe kids getting out of school and things like that. Starting the process earlier can do well for you. Showings really start to pick up early February. So think about that. It's an important part of the timing. And even more important, think about this right now. There are only 2, and I want to make sure I have this right. Yeah, there are only 2 properties on the market, period. Unless I'm missing something, I need to check that again. I'm surprised that all the homes, When I pull up a search for Palmetto Trace right now, there are only 2 townhouses available for sale, and that's it. And if we remember where pricing is, both of them are priced above where recent sales have been, $249,900, $249,000. I think that's a good strategy. We're going to talk pricing in a second, but think about this again in terms of timing and competition. If you're coming out to the market, we know people want to be in Palmetto Trace. We know the market is hot, and you don't have any competition. You have a little bit of competition in the townhomes, but we know those are selling fast. We know there's a lot of interest there. And if you have a home for sale, the world's your oyster almost. And in terms of price, a couple of very important things to consider. Remember what I said at the beginning of this about months of inventory. Months of inventory, or traditionally, it's taken 5 or 6 months to work through the process in real estate. If you're getting ready to sell in the spring, and unless you need to sell very quickly, it's a different story if you do. But if you don't need to sell quickly and you're just looking to get the best price, especially in this market, a market where we know it's hot. Obviously, you've always heard about buy low, sell high. The market is as good as it's been in years. If you're going to put something out on the market, it's real easy for a real estate agent to come in and say, okay, let's look at the sales from the last 5 or 6 months, and here's where you should be priced based off of these. It's important to acknowledge where the sales have been, obviously. But don't be afraid in this market to price aggressively. You can't price unreasonably. You couldn't put a 3-bedroom house where, pricing in line with 4-bedroom competition. But you can really, really push the envelope here. I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because of the appraisal factor. In this market, this price point, it's very likely that most of the buyers that make an offer to purchase, well-qualified buyers, are going to borrow money. If that's the case, then that means an appraisal will come into play and in some cases limit how high the purchase price can go. There are some strategies you can implement to maximize on the sale. What I mean is you may price aggressively. You may have a buyer come in and want to pay that. And now it's a matter of getting that closed if an appraisal comes in lower. There's some things you can do, and make sure if you're thinking about selling, you're talking to your agent, make sure you're talking to the agent about this idea. They better have an idea, an answer for how they're going to deal with this, and they better have a strategy, in my opinion, to combat the possibilities of a low appraisal before the appraisal comes in. There should be some things they can do before an appraiser gets sent out to the property. There's also some things that can be done in the contract when you're negotiating the contract to ensure that the contract you're getting will actually close, especially if you're pushing the price. In short there, don't be afraid to get aggressive on the price. We can't get unreasonably aggressive, but we can get really close. This is the kind of market to do that. People want to be in Palmetto Trace. If you have a good product, pricing aggressively and being patient will do you pretty well. For those of you looking to just keep up with the market, remember, I think a lot of you are already signed up for our e-alert system. If you're not, let me know. Again, it's a free service. There's no obligation to work with us or anything. It's just something I really believe in. I've been selling real estate since 2003 and have never seen a system that lets people keep up with the market as well as real estate agents with accurate information. Anytime a house goes up for sale, goes under contract, sells or closes, changes price or closes, you'll get sent that information in an e-alert. And we can set the system up so that you're alerted every time something happens, or just once per week or even once per month. It's an excellent, excellent way, especially to keep track of sales. So plenty of times the neighbor says, oh, I sold my house. Yeah, I got $700 million for it. We know that's not true. This is an excellent way to see what the actual pricing is as soon as the sale hits, the sold price and sold date come to you. It's accurate information to see really what's happening. The system's really easy to use. It looks great on mobile. You can, you just click on, you get an email, you click on it, and you can see the photos, you can read the description of everything that comes in. So if you're interested in those, just shoot me an email to craig@craigduran.com or text me at 850-527-0221. Jacob or I will set you up. Remember, Jacob Willenberg and I work together a lot in Palmetto Trace. Jacob grew up in the neighborhood. His dad's still doing a lot of the lawn maintenance over there. You guys probably know Phil. But at any rate, let us know if you want some e-alerts. I know it's a little bit longer than our normal updates, but we really want to give you some good comprehensive information to get going in 2021. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. We'll be in touch next month. Thanks.